Jamie, he loves his koala bear he's got. But he hasn't got anything particular. He just likes something with a bit of noise. He got a plastic whale that throws things out the top, little balls.
In 1997, just months before her tragic death, Princess Diana wrote a letter that would remain sealed for 26 years. It wasn't a letter to a close friend, but to her estranged sister-in-law, Princess Anne. In it, Diana revealed shocking insights into the royal family's future, her deepest fears for her sons, and a heart-wrenching request for Anne to protect them.
Good question. We've been very lucky. My mother was the queen for a very long time. And although you kind of know that this might happen, you don't really think about it very much. Not least of all because the monarchy is about continuity.
Now, as this letter comes to light, we uncover the startling truths about Diana's final thoughts, a plea for change, and a bond never fully understood until now. The letter, which was found in early 2024, is nothing short of a revelation. Its discovery occurred in Essex, England, when auctioneer James Parker opened a dusty old box that contained a collection of Princess Diana's private letters. The box, which had been kept in a private collection since Diana's death in 1997, was filled with thank you notes and personal messages. But one letter stood out. This letter, sealed in an envelope addressed to Princess Anne, would change everything the public thought they knew about the royal family. The sealed envelope, a cream-colored document adorned with Diana's royal letterhead, was in surprisingly good condition, considering its age. The handwriting, clear and precise, showed no signs of wear or fading, unlike Diana's other letters, which were often shared in public or auctioned. This one remained sealed, its contents a secret for more than 2 decades. As news of the letter's discovery spread, royal experts quickly flocked to Essex to examine the letter. Among them was Dr. Sarah Matthews, a historian with extensive knowledge of Princess Diana's writings. Upon seeing the letter, Dr. Matthews immediately noted that it was in pristine condition, unlike the other letters that had been frequently handled and were now showing signs of age. This was different. The letter seemed untouched by time, as if it had been sealed just the day before. The history of the letter added an extra layer of mystery. It had passed through the hands of 3 different owners since Diana's death. The most recent owner, Thomas Henderson, a retired banker, had acquired the letter in 2001 from an anonymous person who worked for the royal family. This person chose to remain unknown, adding yet another layer of intrigue to the story. Experts studying the envelope noticed something unusual: a small red wax seal bearing Diana's personal crest. This was a special seal that Diana only used for her most private messages, and its presence indicated that the contents of the letter were of great importance. Diana did not use this seal casually, which led experts to believe that the letter's contents were deeply personal, perhaps even confidential. As the letter was opened and its contents revealed, it became clear that Diana had shared more than just a note with Anne. The letter, written in early 1997, was filled with thoughts about the royal family, its future, and Diana's concerns about the media, the monarchy, and her sons, William and Harry. At the time, Diana was heavily involved in charity work, particularly her campaign against landmines. This work took her to dangerous parts of the world, and she was increasingly aware of the risks she faced. Despite the threats she encountered, Diana remained committed to her cause, but her letter to Anne was filled with an undercurrent of concern. She understood the dangers of her work, and the letter reflected her desire for someone to look after her children should something happen to her. The letter was not filled with anger or bitterness. Instead, it was calm and thoughtful, showing a side of Diana that few had seen. She spoke with respect for Anne, acknowledging their differences, but also praising Anne for her loyalty to the royal family. Diana understood that Anne's approach to royal life was very different from hers. Anne had always adhered to royal tradition, keeping her private life out of the public eye, while Diana had always been more open and willing to share her personal struggles. Despite these differences, Diana expressed admiration for Anne's strength and commitment to duty. The most striking part of the letter, however, was Diana's request to Anne. She asked her to look after William and Harry if anything were to happen to her. This request, made in the spring of 1997, just a few months before Diana's tragic death in Paris, seemed to carry a weight of urgency. Diana was fully aware of the dangers she faced, and she was determined to ensure that her sons would be cared for, even if she could not be there to protect them. Her words to Anne, though respectful, carried a deep sense of responsibility. Diana's sons were her world, and she wanted to make sure that even in her absence, they would be looked after by someone she trusted. The timing of the letter is also significant. In early 1997, Diana had become increasingly involved in global charity work, particularly her efforts to raise awareness about landmines. Her work in Angola and Bosnia brought her into contact with dangerous situations, and she was aware that some powerful individuals were not pleased with her activism. Despite the danger, Diana remained resolute, but her letter to Anne indicated that she was aware of the risks she was taking. She spoke about the pressure she felt and the toll it was taking on her, but she also expressed a quiet hope for the future of the royal family. Diana understood that change was coming, both for the monarchy and for her sons, and she wanted to make sure they were prepared for the challenges ahead. The letter also touched on Diana's deep concerns about the future of the royal family. She was worried about how the family would adapt to the increasing power of the media and the changing expectations of the public. She spoke about the need for the monarchy to evolve in order to survive in the modern world, a sentiment that would later echo in the choices made by her sons. William, who would one day become king, has worked to balance royal tradition with a more modern approach, while Harry chose a different path, stepping away from royal duties to pursue a life that is more in line with his personal values. The letter's discovery has sparked new discussions about Diana's life, her legacy, and her relationship with Anne. For many years, their relationship was seen as distant, even strained, but the letter reveals a different side of their connection. Diana may not have been close to Anne in the traditional sense, but she trusted her enough to confide in her, sharing her hopes and fears for the future. The letter also sheds new light on Diana's understanding of the challenges her sons would face and the changes that were on the horizon for the royal family. Today, the letter is kept in a special room at the British Library, where it is being studied by experts. Its discovery has not only provided new insights into Diana's life, but has also sparked renewed interest in her role within the royal family. The letter, once hidden away in a private collection, now offers a glimpse into Diana's thoughts during a time when she was facing both personal and public challenges. It is a reminder of the complexity of her life and the enduring impact she had on the monarchy and the world. As the letter continues to be examined, it is clear that its significance extends far beyond the royal family. It is a testament to Diana's foresight and her deep understanding of the changing world around her. Her words to Anne, though written in private, now serve as a public reminder of the challenges the royal family faces in adapting to a rapidly changing world. The letter is a piece of history, a final message from a woman who, even in her last months, was determined to ensure that her children and the monarchy would thrive in the future. The discovery of the letter, which had remained sealed for more than 2 decades, sent shockwaves through the royal world and intrigued historians, royal experts, and the general public alike. The letter, addressed to Princess Anne, was unlike any other letter written by Diana that had been made public before. While Diana was known for writing letters to friends, supporters, and even the press, most of these letters were either shared with the public or auctioned off, leaving little to the imagination. However, this particular letter was different, and its story would soon be revealed. The sealed envelope, which contained the letter, was found in a dusty box in Essex, England, early in 2024. Auctioneer James Parker, who had been entrusted with the sale of several of Diana's personal items, was the first to come across the letter. It was tucked away among other documents that included thank you notes and polite messages. The letter to Anne stood out because of its pristine condition, despite its age. The cream-colored envelope, with its official royal letterhead, appeared as though it had been sealed just the day before. This was unusual because letters written by Diana in the past often showed signs of age, with faded ink, worn edges, and creases from being frequently handled. This letter, however, was almost untouched by time, its contents a mystery that had been kept hidden for more than 26 years. The discovery of the letter piqued the interest of royal experts, many of whom had studied Diana's letters extensively. Among them was Dr. Sarah Matthews, a historian well-versed in the intricacies of Diana's writings. Dr. Matthews immediately noticed the letter's exceptional condition. The neat handwriting, the ink, and even the texture of the paper were consistent with letters that Diana had written in the late 1990s. But it was the small red wax seal that truly caught the expert's attention. Unlike the more common royal seal that Diana had used on many of her other letters, this seal was a personal crest that she reserved for her most private messages. The presence of this special seal suggested that the contents of the letter were of great importance. Diana only used this seal for communications that were deeply personal and confidential. It was clear that this was no ordinary letter, and its contents would reveal much about Diana's private thoughts and concerns. When the letter was finally opened, it became clear that it was not just a simple correspondence. Written in early 1997, the letter was a reflection of Diana's thoughts about the future of the royal family, her sons William and Harry, and her growing concerns about the media's power and the direction the monarchy was headed. At the time, Diana was deeply involved in charity work, particularly her campaign against landmines. Her efforts had taken her to some of the world's most dangerous places, and she had already started to feel the weight of the risks she was taking. Despite the dangers, she remained committed to her cause, knowing full well that it might cost her life. It was in this context that Diana wrote to Princess Anne, someone with whom she had never shared a particularly close bond. The letter was not filled with bitterness or anger. Instead, it exuded calmness, thoughtfulness, and a sense of responsibility. Diana wrote with a clear understanding of the challenges she faced, and she expressed her concerns in a way that was both respectful and measured. Despite the differences in their personalities and their approaches to royal life, Diana respected Anne for her unwavering loyalty to the royal family. Anne, who had always adhered to royal tradition, had never sought the spotlight in the way Diana had. She was known for her dedication to duty and for staying out of the public eye, whereas Diana had always been in the media's glare. Her personal life and struggles laid bare for the world to see. Despite their differing approaches, Diana admired Anne's strength and her ability to stay true to herself within the confines of the royal system. The letter revealed that Diana was not only thinking about her own future, but also about the future of the monarchy and her children. She spoke candidly about the changes she believed were inevitable within the royal family. Diana foresaw a time when the monarchy would have to adapt to the changing media landscape and the evolving expectations of the public. She worried about how these changes would affect her sons, particularly William and Harry. Her concern for their well-being was evident throughout the letter, and she made an unusual request. She asked Anne to look after her sons if anything were to happen to her. This request, coming just months before Diana's tragic death in Paris, added an air of urgency to the letter. Diana, who had been so publicly involved in charitable causes, now seemed to be preparing for the possibility that her life might be cut short. She wanted to ensure that should the worst happen, someone who understood the complexities of royal life would be there to guide and protect her children. The letter also reflected Diana's growing awareness of the risk she was taking. At the time, her work against landmines had brought her to Angola and Bosnia, both of which were volatile regions. In addition to the physical danger of visiting such places, Diana had also begun to realize that her outspoken activism had made powerful enemies. She had upset political figures and governments, and her actions had placed her in increasingly perilous situations. Despite these risks, Diana was undeterred. She continued to work tirelessly for causes she believed in, even though she recognized that her life might be in danger. The letter to Anne seemed to be a way for her to ensure that if something were to happen to her, her sons would not be left vulnerable in an unpredictable and ever-changing world. One of the most striking aspects of the letter was the tone in which it was written. Diana, who had often been seen as a more emotional and expressive figure, was surprisingly calm and rational in this letter. She was not venting her frustrations or anger at the media or the royal family. Instead, she was reflecting on the future and trying to make sure that her children would be able to navigate the challenges they would face as they grew up in the public eye. Diana's concern for William and Harry was evident in her words, and she made it clear that she wanted them to have the freedom to live their lives on their terms, even if it meant stepping away from royal tradition. Diana also used the letter to express her admiration for Anne's ability to navigate the royal family's rigid structure. While Anne had always adhered to royal traditions, Diana recognized that she had done so with integrity and a sense of duty. In many ways, Anne was the polar opposite of Diana, who had always struggled with the restrictions placed on her by the monarchy. But despite their differences, Diana acknowledged Anne's strength and loyalty, and it was clear that she trusted Anne to help guide her sons if she were no longer able to do so herself. The letter's discovery has led to renewed interest in Diana's life and her relationship with Anne. For years, it had been believed that the two women had a distant and even strained relationship. They were never close, and their differing approaches to royal life seemed to create a rift between them. However, the letter reveals a different side of their relationship, one based on mutual respect and understanding. Diana may not have been particularly close to Anne, but she trusted her enough to confide in her. In this letter, Diana expressed her hopes for the future of the royal family and her deep concerns about the well-being of her children. It was a final message to Anne, asking her to step into a role she had never anticipated, but that Diana believed was necessary to ensure the stability of the monarchy. The discovery of the letter has also sparked discussions about Diana's foresight and her ability to predict the challenges the royal family would face in the years to come. Diana wrote about the need for the monarchy to adapt to the changing media landscape and the evolving expectations of the public. She also expressed concern about the pressure her sons would face as they grew up in the royal spotlight. These themes have proven to be highly relevant in the years since Diana's death. Her sons, William and Harry, have faced challenges of their own, and their choices have reshaped the royal family in ways Diana could have only imagined. Today, the letter is kept in a special room at the British Library, where it is being carefully studied by experts. Its discovery has sparked renewed interest in Diana's life, and the letter has become a valuable piece of royal history. The letter's significance extends far beyond the royal family. It is a reminder of Diana's foresight and her deep understanding of the pressures and challenges that come with being a member of the royal family. It is also a testament to her love for her children and her desire to ensure that they would be able to navigate the complexities of royal life with a sense of freedom and independence. The letter may have been hidden for more than 2 decades, but its contents have now been revealed to the world, offering a new perspective on one of the most iconic figures in modern history. The contents of Princess Diana's letter to Princess Anne have sparked new discussions about the dynamics within the royal family, especially concerning Diana's final months and her understanding of the future challenges the monarchy would face. For many, the letter was a revelation, offering a rare insight into Diana's private thoughts. While the public saw Diana as a beacon of warmth and compassion, often battling through personal struggles in the limelight, her private world and relationships within the royal family were far more complex. The letter to Anne, written in early 1997, is one of the last messages Diana sent out before her tragic passing, making it all the more poignant. Its message sheds light on not only Diana's concerns for her sons, but also her views on the royal family's place in a world that was rapidly changing. Diana's letter to Princess Anne wasn't just a personal note. It was a quiet reflection of Diana's feelings about the monarchy and the difficult balance between tradition and the evolving demands of modern life. Diana, more than anyone, understood the pressures that came with being a part of the royal family. From a young age, she had stepped into a world steeped in centuries of tradition, which at times felt suffocating and unyielding. Despite her royal title and the immense public adoration she received, Diana often felt isolated and misunderstood, struggling to fit into the rigid structure of the monarchy. However, her concerns about the future of the royal family and her sons showed a deeper level of awareness about the changing landscape of the monarchy. Diana was particularly concerned about the challenges that her sons, William and Harry, would face as they grew up. Both of them had been thrust into the public eye from birth, and as they matured, the media scrutiny intensified. Diana, in her letter, shared her fears about how the royal family's traditional roles and duties were becoming increasingly difficult to navigate in a world where the media had so much power. She recognized that the pressures her sons would face could be overwhelming, and she wanted to ensure that they had the freedom to carve out their own identities, independent of the royal constraints that were being placed on them. At the same time, Diana was deeply aware that her sons were part of a legacy that carried immense weight, and she wanted them to be able to adapt to the demands of their royal roles without losing sight of who they were as individuals. What makes this letter particularly striking is the way Diana's words reveal her understanding of the royal family's role in a changing world. She recognized the need for the monarchy to evolve in order to remain relevant in the modern age. By 1997, the world had changed significantly from the time Diana had married Prince Charles in 1981. The media landscape had shifted dramatically, and with it, the expectations placed on the royal family. Diana had always been an open and visible figure, often engaging with the public and sharing aspects of her life that were not typically seen in royal circles. In contrast, Princess Anne, though dedicated to her royal duties, had always adhered more closely to the tradition of keeping one's personal life private. Diana's letter to Anne acknowledged these differences, but it also highlighted the respect she had for Anne's loyalty to the royal family. Despite their differing personalities and approaches to royal life, Diana saw Anne as someone who could be trusted with a responsibility she feared she might not be able to fulfill herself. The most poignant part of the letter was Diana's request for Anne to look after her sons should anything happen to her. This request, made just months before her tragic death in Paris, reveals Diana's deep concern for her children's future. Diana had often been candid about the struggles she faced within the royal family and her sense of isolation. But in this letter, she didn't express any anger or bitterness. Instead, she shared a quiet hope that, even in her absence, her children would have the guidance and support they needed. Diana's request was not one made out of desperation, but rather a plea for Anne to step into a role she had never anticipated. It was a role that required not only the strength of character Anne had always shown, but also an understanding of the complexities of royal life, an understanding that Diana had gained after years of experience. Diana's letter was not just a simple request. It was a reflection of her deepest fears and hopes for the future. She had always been acutely aware of the dangers of her public life, particularly as her charity work brought her into increasingly perilous situations. Her campaign against landmines had taken her to Angola and Bosnia, both of which were countries in conflict, and Diana had come face to face with the violence and danger these regions posed. She had also faced criticism from powerful individuals who didn't share her commitment to certain causes. Yet, despite the dangers, Diana remained steadfast in her mission to make a difference in the world. The letter to Anne revealed that Diana understood the risks she was taking, but she was willing to continue her work, even if it meant putting her life in jeopardy. This letter was, in a way, her final message, an attempt to make sure that, in case something went wrong, her children would be taken care of by someone who understood the pressures they would face as members of the royal family. At the same time, Diana's letter also spoke to her hopes for the royal family's future. She was concerned about how the monarchy would survive in a world where public expectations were rapidly shifting. The rise of the media, combined with the increasing desire for transparency and accountability, created a difficult environment for the royal family to navigate. Diana was aware that the family would need to adapt in order to remain relevant, and she feared that failure to do so could lead to a decline in their importance. The letter reflected her belief that the royal family had to change if they wanted to continue to be a symbol of stability and tradition in a world that was constantly changing. Diana's foresight was uncanny, as many of the issues she raised in the letter would come to dominate the royal family's public image in the years to follow. Despite the differences between Diana and Anne, the letter showed a surprising level of respect. Diana acknowledged the tension that had existed between them, but she also recognized Anne's strength and resilience. Anne had always stayed true to her royal duties, even in the face of personal struggles. While Diana was often open about her challenges and sought support from the public, Anne remained more reserved, focusing on her work without drawing attention to her personal life. Yet, despite their differing approaches, Diana saw in Anne the qualities she admired most: loyalty, strength, and a sense of duty. In this letter, Diana trusted Anne with the future of her children, hoping that Anne would be able to help guide them through the challenges they would face as part of the royal family. The request Diana made in the letter to Anne was not just about her sons, it was also about the future of the monarchy. Diana had seen firsthand how difficult it was to balance royal duty with personal freedom, and she feared that her sons would be forced to choose between tradition and their own desires. The pressure of royal life, combined with the constant scrutiny from the media, could be overwhelming. Diana wanted to ensure that, even if she was no longer there to protect her children, they would be able to navigate this complex world with the same sense of independence and purpose that she had fought for during her own life. In many ways, Diana's letter to Anne was a reflection of her enduring concern for the future of the royal family and the legacy she would leave behind. It was a message filled with love for her children, a recognition of the challenges they would face, and a quiet plea for understanding and support. Diana understood that her role in the royal family was unique, and she was acutely aware of the pressures that came with it. Her letter to Anne revealed her deep desire for the monarchy to evolve and adapt to the changing world, a sentiment that would later become a defining issue for her sons. Diana's letter also served as a reminder of the complexities of royal life, a life that often seemed to be governed by unspoken rules and expectations. For years, Diana had struggled to fit into this world, and in the final months of her life, she seemed to understand that the royal family needed to change in order to survive. Her request for Anne to look after her sons was not just a personal plea. It was a call for the royal family to adapt to the modern world, to become more accessible, and to ensure that future generations would be able to thrive in a world that was no longer bound by tradition alone. The letter, which had remained hidden for so long, has now become an important piece of history. It sheds light on Diana's deep understanding of the challenges the royal family would face, and her desire to ensure that her sons would be able to navigate them. Her foresight, combined with the love she felt for her children, makes this letter a powerful testament to her legacy. Through this letter, Diana's voice continues to resonate, offering a glimpse into the heart of a woman who was not only a princess, but also a mother, concerned with the future of her family and the world they would inherit. The letter also sheds light on Diana's relationship with the royal family at large, especially her understanding of the pressures that came with being part of such an institution. The monarchy, by its very nature, was built on tradition, duty, and service to the people. But by the 1990s, it had come under increasing scrutiny from both the press and the public. Diana, who had always been at the center of attention, was acutely aware of the challenges the royal family faced in balancing tradition with the growing demands for transparency and adaptation to the modern world. The royal family had always been seen as a symbol of stability, but as the world around them changed, it became more difficult to maintain that image. Diana, in her final years, had recognized that change was not only inevitable, but necessary. The letter she wrote to Anne was not just a personal communication. It was a window into her vision of the monarchy's future. One of the most striking aspects of the letter was the clarity with which Diana expressed her concerns for her sons. William and Harry were both young men at the time, and Diana knew that their futures would be shaped by the royal family's ever-evolving public image. Diana had always been deeply protective of her children, and as a mother, her primary concern was that they would be able to lead their lives with a sense of independence, free from the constraints of royal duty if they so desired. This was a particularly poignant message, considering the pressure placed on William and Harry as members of the royal family. Diana's plea to Anne to look after her sons if anything happened to her was not just an emotional request. It was a recognition of the growing divide between royal tradition and the freedoms her sons would need to lead their own lives. At the time of writing the letter, Diana was also increasingly aware of the risks her charity work brought with it. She had been outspoken in her efforts to raise awareness about issues such as landmines and HIV/AIDS, which were not only dangerous but controversial. Her charity work often took her to dangerous places, including war-torn areas where her presence would have been met with resistance from both political figures and militant groups. Her trips to Angola, Bosnia, and other conflict zones had already made headlines, and Diana was increasingly aware of the danger she faced. Despite this, her commitment to these causes never wavered. The letter to Anne is filled with a sense of urgency and determination. Diana was not merely documenting her feelings. She was preparing for the worst, ensuring that her children would be looked after, and that the royal family would have a voice that could speak truth to power in the way she had done throughout her life. As Diana reflected on the future of her children, the monarchy, and the role of women within it, it became clear that she was also grappling with her own identity within the royal family. Diana had always been portrayed as a glamorous figure, a fashion icon, and a beloved figure of the public. But beyond the headlines and the media frenzy, there was a woman who longed for understanding and respect. Diana's relationship with Anne had been marked by differences in approach. Anne had always been a more reserved figure, choosing duty over public attention, while Diana's struggles with royal life had been very public. This contrast had led to a somewhat distant relationship between the two women. Diana, however, saw Anne's strengths and resilience, and in her letter, she acknowledged these qualities. The letter serves as a testament to the complexity of their relationship, showing that Diana, in her final months, had come to appreciate Anne for her dedication to the royal family, even if they didn't see eye to eye on everything. In the letter, Diana not only expressed her fears and concerns about the future, but also made a request that was born out of love and concern for her sons. Her vision for the royal family was one in which her children could navigate their own paths without being weighed down by the traditional roles that had been imposed upon them. Diana's experience within the royal family had been fraught with challenges, from the scrutiny of the press to the rigid expectations of royal duty. Her struggles were well documented, and by 1997, she was no longer just a princess. She had become an icon for many people who saw her as a voice for those who didn't have one. She had become the people's princess, a title that resonated deeply with the public. But even as she was celebrated by millions, she was still a mother, deeply concerned about the future of her children. The discovery of Diana's letter to Anne has not only illuminated the private thoughts of the late princess, but has also shed light on the shifting nature of the royal family. Diana's willingness to speak candidly about the monarchy's need for change was groundbreaking. She recognized that the royal family could not continue to operate in the same way it always had. The world had changed, and so too had the expectations of the public. Diana's letter to Anne reflects this understanding, offering insight into how Diana saw the monarchy's place in a world that was increasingly defined by a 24-hour news cycle and an ever-growing media presence. She had seen how the royal family struggled to maintain its relevance and how it sometimes appeared out of touch with the realities of modern life. While Diana's request for Anne to look after her children was deeply personal, it was also an acknowledgement of the challenges that the royal family would face in the years to come. The monarchy, though steeped in tradition, was becoming more and more vulnerable to the pressures of public opinion. Diana, in her letter, urged Anne to help her sons navigate this difficult terrain. She recognized that William and Harry, like herself, would be under constant scrutiny, and she wanted to ensure that they were protected from the worst of it. Her concerns about the media's influence on the royal family were well-founded, and her foresight would prove to be more accurate than anyone could have predicted. The letter also represents a subtle but powerful shift in Diana's relationship with Anne. For years, the two women had maintained a polite but distant relationship, shaped by their differing approaches to royal life. Anne had always adhered to tradition, focusing on her royal duties without seeking the public's attention. Diana, on the other hand, had become a public figure in her own right, using her platform to speak out on various social and political issues. But despite their differences, Diana's letter reveals a quiet respect for Anne's resilience and loyalty to the royal family. This letter, therefore, serves as a testament to the complex dynamics of royal life and the way in which relationships within the family were shaped by both personal and institutional forces. In the years since Diana's passing, her sons, William and Harry, have each forged their own paths within the royal family, and both have made choices that reflect the changing landscape of the monarchy. William, the future king, has tried to balance royal duty with a sense of normalcy, while Harry has taken a more radical approach, stepping away from royal duties altogether in order to pursue a life of greater independence. Diana, in her letter, had predicted that one of her sons might eventually choose freedom over duty, and Harry's decision to step back from royal life in 2020 seemed to fulfill that prophecy. Meanwhile, William has worked to maintain the monarchy's relevance while also adapting to the demands of the modern world. Diana's foresight, as expressed in her letter, has proven to be remarkably prescient. Diana's letter to Anne serves as both a reflection of her deep understanding of the monarchy's challenges and a final wish for her sons' futures. It also reveals the complexity of her relationship with Anne and the respect she had for her, despite their differences. The letter, though private, has become a key piece of royal history, offering insight into the life of one of the most iconic figures of the 20th century. It serves as a reminder of Diana's lasting legacy and her deep love for her children, as well as her desire for the royal family to evolve in order to stay relevant in an ever-changing world.